The impeachment inquiry goes on. The House of Representatives set to vote this morning on how to proceed with the impeachment inquiry. Republicans are pressuring House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to make sure each vote is on the record today. This is former National Security Advisor John Bolton says he is refusing to testify after being summoned by House investigators, Fox News has learned. Joining us right now is Young Americans for Liberty analyst Kristin Tate. Kristin, it's always good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be with you.
So
Thanks for having me.
This vote today, what are you expecting? What does this signify?
Well, the House impeachment resolution moving to the floor today will likely pass on a single-party vote. This will set the parameters for the impeachment proceedings, and this is really Nancy Pelosi's way of trying to silence Republicans who have complained that all of this impeachment business has really happened out of the view of the public. But ultimately, none of this is going to result in the removal of Donald Trump from office, or at least it's not likely. Although I suspect that was never really Pelosi's goal. I think her goal here is to disrupt the arc of Donald Trump's presidency and just to do as much damage as possible in the next year. Democrats are hoping that if they can keep that word impeachment in every newspaper in America for the next year, that it'll really tarnish Donald Trump before 2020. But I've got to tell you, Maria, I think this will all probably backfire on Democrats. People are very skeptical of this process and see it as being highly partisan. The Democrats have been talking about impeachment before Trump was even inaugurated.
Yes, they have, Steve.
Kristin, Steve Forbes here. But in terms of what's happening in the House today, is that going to make this process more open? Because the reason why Schiff and others wanted this behind closed doors is they didn't have a case. And the public would realize if it was out in public, they'd be confused, wondering what this thing was all about, and would backfire. That's why they also wanted it behind closed doors, because they wanted to feed leaks to favored people in the mainstream media, their propaganda arm. So will this vote today make it more open so the public can see just how confused and nebulous this whole thing is?
I hope it'll make it more public. Ultimately, this just keeps the story in the news, and it likely won't change much in terms of public opinion. The Democrats and the liberals are still going to despise Trump. Trump supporters, meanwhile, they are livid about all of this, and this could have the effect of actually mobilizing Trump's base. Ironically, this could be just what Trump needed to drive all of his supporters to the polls in droves next year.
So let's talk about
the transparency could be very good.
I had heard yesterday that one of the issues was now the rules, which Adam Schiff is making up as he goes along, frankly, is that the Republicans have to ask Adam Schiff who they're going to bring down to testify. I mean, they actually, and if Adam Schiff feels, well, that's not relevant, he'll say, no, you can't subpoena that person.
It doesn't sound like this is a huge move towards transparency.
Right.
But I must say, I'm wondering what you think of the next phase. If this goes to the Senate, which it almost invariably will, it seems to me you've got an awful lot of senators running for office. Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they're going to be tied up in the Senate day after day during this process of holding a trial. And won't they be incredibly livid? Because we're not that far away from the Iowa caucuses, for heaven's sakes. What does this do for them?
Right. Well, the Democrats are going to try to use this to get their left-wing base to the polls. And I think a lot of this is because the economy is doing so well. The Democrats know they cannot run against Trump's economy, so they're trying to run on this impeachment nonsense. And it will work with the far-left voters, but probably not with moderates.
So let's talk about 2020. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren now admitting that her Medicare for All proposal could cost up to 2 million jobs. This coming as she is facing backlash on her campaign finances. Warren had previously pledged she would not attend fundraising events for her presidential campaign hosted by ultra-wealthy donors, but she's been attending multiple fundraisers raising money for the Democratic Party. So she is taking their money indirectly through the DNC. Give us your take on the 2020 race right here.
Well, Elizabeth Warren has been very dishonest, but she's doing well in the polls, and she could end up being the nominee. Joe Biden was supposed to be the moderate in this race, the one with the best chance at beating Donald Trump, but even he has become so extreme on many of the issues. He released a $5 trillion climate plan. His health care proposal is Obamacare on steroids. I really don't see any Democrat in the field who could appeal to blue-collar workers, tax-paying people, blue dog Democrats Democrats who used to make up the core base of the Democratic Party's voters, they feel completely alienated and ostracized by the Democratic Party of today. And that's why a lot of those folks just kind of held their nose and voted for Donald Trump in 2016. And because the Democrats aren't putting up a good moderate now, that may very well happen again in 2020.
Kristin, that really was my question. Do you think all of the conversation about what happened over Ukraine, at the end of the day, if impeachment really isn't an issue, it did tarnish Joe Biden's reputation. It made people think about what kind of dealings he was having and his children were having overseas. And so if he is not really the top front runner, then the Dems don't really have a chance.
Right. Well, having all of that in the news definitely didn't help Biden. But Biden's problem is bigger than that. This is a guy who can't even remember what state he's in half the time. He is a gaffe machine. He has been so disappointing. I mean, this nomination was his to lose, and he's really blown it. So I don't see it being very good for Biden moving forward. I guess, there's still a lot of time before the primary, so things could change. But right now, it's looking like Elizabeth Warren could be the nominee.
But, Kristin, on the Ukraine situation, we now know that the whistleblower has been outed. We are not naming the person's name on Fox, but we know that this person is a registered Democrat, worked for President Obama, worked for John Brennan, and was among a core group of people that was peddling the Russia collusion story back in 2016. Your reaction to the whistleblower, who now Adam Schiff doesn't see a need to interview and bring down for testimony?
Well, for the Democrats who are trying to make this seem like, a credible impeachment process, this completely undermines that. And again, this is just going to fire up the conservatives in Trump's base. They are so angry. And also those moderates who are in the middle and really aren't sure how they're going to vote in 2020. This could really tarnish the Democrats. And, this impeachment story could have swayed those people to the left. But now I'm not sure that it'll be very effective.
Kristin, talking about Elizabeth Warren, how is her appeal among minority voters? Previously, it's been zero. Is she making any real inroads there?
Well, I have a very hard time believing that, a coastal Massachusetts liberal is going to do very well with minority voters across the country, or just working class voters of any color for that matter. Under Donald Trump, we have seen record low unemployment among Hispanic and Black Americans. So perhaps those communities are going to warm to Trump ahead of next year. But Elizabeth Warren, to suggest that she is going to convince these voters that she cares about their interests more than Donald Trump, to me, seems a little bit far-fetched.
Kristin, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Maria.
We'll see you soon. Kristin Tate joining us there.